That kind of life molds a person. Charles Dickens is trying to show how a human nature is molded by the forces around one. Hi everyone, it's Shane, and today, as you can see, I'm doing Animal Farm plus Oliver Twist combination. Both and so it's not gonna be as crazy as it sounds. Mostly, I want to just focus on both books, and I want to talk about how something exacerbates something, how something makes something more powerful, kind of like interest. And we're going to be talking about greed, power, money, wealth, all of those things. So if you've read Animal Farm, it's a video for you. If you've read Oliver Twist, it's a video for you. If you have read neither of those books, well, I think it will still be a very interesting video, because it's not only like a very big concept in like real life, but it's also like a theme that you might see a lot. And even if you don't see it a lot, like it's just a big theme. Actually, yeah, you will see like this big theme a lot. And so I just feel it's like really important to understand. So yeah, Animal Farm plus Oliver Twist brought to you today. So okay, so I'm pretty sure that we all know what the both of those books are, but I'm just gonna give a quick recap. Animal Farm, group of animals revolt. They chase out the farmer, make Animal Farm, implement these rules that are going to make them safe, equitable, and amazing democratic society that will improve the well-being of all of them and make sure that they have retirement, they have good food, they have electricity, they have all of that. Then group of pigs takes over. They convince the animals that they're actually doing a good thing and that they deserve all of the luxuries that they're getting that the animals are not getting. And then they become exactly like the humans until like the animals cannot even tell the difference between the pigs and the humans, the latter of which they had the latter of which they had hated. Like basically, the animals hated the humans, they drove the humans out, but then the pigs were kind of the leader of the animals, turned into like humans themselves, and basically made sure that the whole revolution was like, it didn't even matter. Basically, nothing happened. In the end, it was still unfair. The pigs still had all the power. The animals suffered even more than before. So nothing really changes. This is a powerful book that really explores a lot about like communism. It explores about power, leadership, citizens' rights, and all that. And if you want to learn more, check out my other video about Animal Farm, which talks about all of those things. But you know, like, aside from that, I think I also like discussed a bit of this in my last video about Animal Farm, but like also there's this thing about how the pigs, as they went on, they gained momentum. They really began to crave power, to like consume power like this. Like they really began to do that at a rate that we hadn't seen before. And so I'm just trying to talk about how power makes people want to have more power, and how that's a really big theme. I also want to go into the book itself and kind of see like where we can really see that. Now let's turn on to Oliver Twist. Now I'm just like giving overviews, and then we're gonna go like really deep in. Oliver Twist is a book about a young boy who works in a workhouse. This is like 19th century England. Dickens was basically saying, look, the rich people were horrible to the poor people. Oliver Twist went to London after being driven out out of the workhouse and just running away because, you know, the people just treated him so badly. He was beaten, he was starved to death, he had no rights, he was abused, treated badly and cruelly, and it was just a miserable life. And he escaped from an apprenticeship, and like his masters were always horrible. He goes to London, but then is captured by Fagin, this old guy who really likes to mold boys into thieves and then send them out into the streets to steal handkerchiefs, pocket watches, all of those valuable things. He basically trains a gang of thieves like the Artful Dodger or Charlie Bates. There's also this man called Bill Sykes, who is just kind of like a really big He's a big criminal. He's a murderer. He's a housebreaker and basically a robber. He's like really cruel to Oliver, and he grabs Oliver and he makes sure and he tries to use Oliver in his schemes. And while Oliver is a really innocent person who didn't want any of this to happen, and he's now just caught up in the powers of nefarious forces. This is kind of the situation that Oliver finds himself in. And I want to talk about how Dickens was trying to show that in 19th century England, or like basically in life, how like power makes people worse, and like bad life also makes people worse, and kind of like the spectrum, like the spectrum of how people think there's like one end, there's like all the rich people, they're like the good guys, and on the other end there's like all of the poor criminals who are this is like 19th century England, right? This is a time when many people stole and like did bad things because they didn't have a lot of money. So that's like kind of how the like British hierarchy looked like. But then Dickens is saying that both types of lives make people into criminals and just build more greed and stuff like that in them, like more bad things in them. It builds it up. So it's a very interesting theme, and so I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about Animal Farm. So this is a very interesting video, like I've said, because they're like kind of different nuances, but we're covering both books, and they're basically about the same general theme. So first what I'm gonna be doing is I just want to focus on this theme, how it comes up in both books, and then I want to kind of explore and dive deeper into each of those books and talk about how it's really portrayed in that book. So first, both books kind of show how power leads to more power. And actually, let's just go with each individual example. Now that I've kind of shown you the basic overviews of both books, a good summary, and how things work, and for both books, let's actually go into one, talk a bit about it, and then go to the other. So there's Animal Farm, and for Animal Farm, basically, the pigs at first are not that demanding. All they do at first is say, oh yeah, we're gonna take the cow's milk just because, our brains require that, because, our brains are so powerful, and we need all of that brain power to make sure that the farm runs smoothly, that it runs in a way that is beneficial for everybody. That's what they say. But then they go on to say that they begin to take other things. The rights, the rules, the commandments of Animal Farm, slowly but surely, all of them begin to change. Every single one of those rules are changed because none of the animals can really read until all of the rules support the pigs. And previously, all of the rules are basically we can't kill other animals. The pigs with enormous execution ceremonies. We can't turn into humans. We can't be like humans. The pigs immediately move into the house, sleep in the humans' beds, wear the humans' clothes, eat the humans' food, and walk on two legs. And so, as they do so, they try to portray to the animals, we're not doing anything wrong. Read the rules. Look at the exceptions. We're the exception. Read the rules again. And always they've altered those rules so that it always helps the animals. I mean the pigs, and not the animals, the other animals. And so I think that this really shows I don't know, maybe once upon a time, maybe they were just planning it all from the beginning, but just consider what Old Major's words. Old Major, who was at the start of the book, foretelling about this grand, amazing, future of animals and how they were free. It was all about how everybody would be equal. And then Old Major, he died soon. And what all he did was impart in the animals a view, a taste of how an actual free, equitable place would look like. Old Major did not have any plans. He was not scheming about anything. He was not planning anything. He was too old for that. And besides, he didn't do anything. He just wanted to show how a world ruled by animals would be much better. And then the pigs go in, and they're not that bad at first. But as they go on, they become worse. And I feel like this is what Orwell might be trying to say is like, at first, none of the pigs were that radical, but as they went on, they just became worse and worse as they were lured on by the promises of power, by the sweet rewards of manipulation, propaganda, and like fine living. And so I think that maybe Orwell was trying to make like a broader statement about communism, but I think that we can also discern from this book that power makes people want to have more power. Like, bad things make more bad things. Like, just consider like banks, right? Banks, you give money to them and like you say, we're gonna put our money in your bank, then they have interest and you get even more money over time, right? Which is like actually a good thing, I guess. But like, just like that, I feel if you put yourself in the bank of power, all you want is more power. Like, I think that after a moment, you just get so greedy because you now know how it feels like to be rich. It's not like just something that says, oh, you're rich. Oh, cool. It's not like that. You know the feeling of power. You know the feeling of power when, sure, everybody likes the idea of power, but if you know the feeling of power, I'm pretty sure you want to crave it more. Like, somebody hears about Coca-Cola, they're gonna say, yeah, I want to drink that, it sounds great. But if somebody takes a drink of Coca-Cola and then somebody else tells them, you will never be able to drink Coca-Cola or any other type of soda for the rest of your life, they're gonna be devastated because they now have that taste. If they had not gotten that taste of Coca-Cola from the beginning, then they probably will not have that desire. And so my point is, like, I feel that Animal Farm really tries to show that. In the beginning, all the pigs do is try to install like education as in like reading, right? And that's pretty much it. But afterwards, the pigs go even further, like building schoolhouses only for their own children and forcing the animals to make that schoolhouse. They use the animals to manipulate them to work like slaves until and brutally killing all of them for money. And I feel, I don't, like, in the beginning of the book, none of that would have been viable. I don't think that any of the pigs would have thought about that. Sure, maybe they were greedy. Maybe they did want like a better society. Maybe they did kind of enjoy stuff like that. But in the end, I think that even that kind of disappeared until all that left was not like all that, like, everything, all of those good things evaporated, leaving only a hard, bitter core in the end. And that core was the kind of the controlling fact, like, was what the pigs operated on in like the last stages of the book. Just consider the fact that in the beginning of Animal Farm, when like pigs began to like implement these like policies and all that, some of the other pigs like reacted. They were like, "Hey, what are you doing?" But as it went on, that kind of disappeared. And so yeah, I think that this is a very important theme. So please keep this in mind. Just because like Orwell really tries to show it. It's probably one of the main themes of Animal Farm. The pigs, if they wanted to, they could have immediately implemented these some of these. They could have said, "Oh, but remember," like 1 week afterwards, they could have said, "Oh, but remember, look at those again. Look at those again." Well, can you see, like, they could have altered it on the first day. The animals are not very smart. They're not very intelligent. Most of them cannot even read. So after like 2 days, 3 days, the pigs could have controlled power. They could have kept all of the good food for themselves. They could have done the transition faster, but they spend years in the transition when their greed is enough, so that why spend years? because of the fact, not because they want to make the transition gradual so that the animals cannot really know the difference. I don't feel like that's the real big thing, because the pigs already have all the animals in their hands. They can control the animals. I think that as they went on, they became more ambitious. They realized that their power gives them things that they didn't think that were possible before, and therefore they become more greedy. So I think that's a very big theme that you'll find in so many books. Like practically every classic moral story, allegory, fairy tale, even children's picture books are all about this. Rich people become greedy, they become selfish, and it's true. And you can see this not only in like little children's books that say, like for preschoolers, but also for like really adult books that say, like, it's a really, I think, like universal theme that applies to every single person in the world. And it's a very big theme, so hopefully you can get that out of Animal Farm. And as you read Animal Farm, kind of study and analyze the book closer, and maybe you'll see more indicators of that theme. Power breeds like selfishness. It breeds the want for more power. It breeds ambition, but not the good type of ambition, but the cruel, twisted, and blackened type of ambition. Now let's go on to Oliver Twist. Oliver Twist, I feel many people look at Charlie Bates and the Artful Dodger, who are thieves that work for Fagin. They view them as like kind of like bad guys because they're thieves. They don't really have any moral. They're immoral. They don't think about the consequences and implications that their deeds do. They enjoy the art of thieving. They really like that. And besides, they're not very nice to Oliver. They try to convince Oliver to join the gang of thieves because they say, you're gonna join anyway, just join right now, get a lot of money, it's just the best thing to do. And when Oliver was wrongly accused of stealing a pocket handkerchief from a gentleman, when the Artful Dodger, I think maybe Charlie Bates, were the ones that stole it, the Artful Dodger and Charlie Bates actually joined the chase to catch Oliver because, everybody thought that Oliver was the one who had stolen the handkerchief, not Charlie Bates or the Artful Dodger. So they're like completely immoral. They don't really have any moral standards. They don't really think about the consequences of the actions. And many people view them as kind of like very cruel ruffians who don't really deserve a place in the world because all they do is make other people's lives miserable. However, I think that Dickens was not trying to say that. I feel like what Dickens was really trying to show was that perhaps I think that Dickens kind of made the argument and kind of showed that Fagin was a manipulative person who tried to use the boys, right? And I think that through that and through the portrayal of London life, which is a horrible, dirty, grimy city that does not cater towards those who are unprivileged or poor, and which is a society that does not value those with no money, I feel that what Dickens was trying to show is that they stole out of necessity. Like, sure, they enjoy the life of crime. They're like, oh, I really like this. But in the end, they stole out of necessity. They stole out the fact that if they did not steal, they would starve to death in the cold, muddy, and snowy, and dirty, and like filthy streets of London. Their bodies would freeze solid, and nobody would even shed a tear about them, over them. And so it's just a really brutal world in which, consider it. If you were Charlie Bates and you had no way of survival, like if you're just a kid, you had no way of survival. If you do not steal, you die a miserable, prolonged, and cruel death in the streets, like starving to death. You would steal. Nobody in this world would not steal. If you're starving, cold, hungry, and miserable, like 99 out of many people are gonna steal, not because they want to steal, but because if they don't steal, then they're going to die. And besides, somebody else is just gonna steal the same thing in the end anyway, so why not you be the one who steal it and you be the kind of person who actually benefits? Like, I know this is a twisted logic that none of you should follow unless you're none of you should follow, but if you're actually like starving in the streets, if you don't steal, you're gonna die. And I think that for a lot of people, that logic would just really make them want to steal, for obvious reasons. And so I think that like Charlie Bates and the Artful Dodger, like I think that Dickens tried to build a world and try to show that these guys were probably manipulated by Fagin. They were probably forced to steal. And if so, they might have been like Oliver. They might have hesitated to steal. But this is where Dickens wants to show that this type of like that power breeds power. Power breeds selfishness. It breeds the want of more power or more money or whatever whatever your point is. The Artful Dodger and Charlie Bates, if they stole out of necessity, they will not enjoy that fact. Like, Oliver hates stealing, but he's just forced to do so. This time by Bill Sikes, but like, basically, like, you can just think of Bill Sikes as life, but Charlie Bates and the Artful Dodger enjoy that type of thing. They enjoy that type of activity. And just look at Bill Sikes. Who knows? Maybe Bill Sikes was driven to steal out of necessity, right? There weren't a lot of opportunities for poor people in that era. But now Bill Sikes is a murderous, cruel, and twisted person who actually likes his profession, who likes killing, stealing, and hoodwinking all who go near him. And so I feel it goes that necessity turns into greed. Charles Dickens was trying to show that maybe was creating a world in which it's kind of necessary to steal, but then he shows these people who like stealing, and I think in the end he was just trying to show maybe these people probably went into stealing because they had no choice, but because of that fact, they begin to like that stealing. And that's Charles Dickens' main point. The fact that they now like stealing. That kind of life molds a person. Charles Dickens is trying to show how human nature itself is portrayed in Oliver Twist in the way that it's like the human nature is molded by the forces around one, and the forces around them in 19th century England were that of stealing, and so that made them want to steal even more. But Charles Dickens had a better nuance. He also wanted to show that rich people were also molded. This is kind of like Animal Farm, but also different. Just consider the Beetle and Mrs. Corny, Mr. Bumble, and the board of the workhouse, right? Which Charles Dickens portrays in a sarcastic manner as these cruel people, these people who are not only ignorant of what's happening around them, but just mistreat all who are lower than them, are self-important, think themselves as the most worthy of everything, and just basically they pray to themselves. This is the highest person in the world is them. And so I feel that Dickens was trying to show here, it's not only stealing, but it's also that power, that being in the lap of luxury and just looking down at all of those paupers and all of those people who are poor and are starving in the streets, and they sneer at them, they laugh at their misfortune. And so I think that this is just a really big reminder. It's not only poor people who are affected, but it's also rich people, and rich people might even turn out even more gruesome than the poor people turn out. And so it's a very powerful theme that I urge you to explore further, because it comes up so much in different nuances. For Dickens, he was trying to show that life molds a person, in not only rich people, not only poor people, but also rich people, criminals and board members of workhouses, all of them. And Animal Farm is trying to show that it kind of accelerates the growth. Being rich or having power accelerates and makes the want of power and money and all of those amazing things, power, money, being the strongest, being the leader. It exacerbates those okay, I'm so tongue-tied today. It exacerbates a person's wanting for them. And so And so in the end, I think that Animal Farm and Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist are beautiful examples of human nature, of how humans change because of their external surroundings, and how, like how human nature is formed, molded, and affected. And so it's a very interesting topic. I hope that you dive into it more through other books and through these amazing classics, which should be a must read for every single person in the world, because they're just such great books. And I hope that you enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Bye, and keep reading.